So, Mark, I'm gonna pitch our subject of discussion to you for today, and you're gonna pretend to be surprised, yeah?
Okay.
So, I would suggest that we take these 25, 30 minutes to try and come up with a better description of what IQM is and what we do. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean,
Cool.
especially as I'm involved in recruitment at the moment. Um, oh, he seemed to have disappeared. There he is. Especially as I'm involved in recruitment at the moment, and it's one of the things that I think is useful to get across to applicants.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Um, it's I think for applicants and for customers to understand what we do as a company and what kind of a company we are is really essential. And I think those are two linked but two different things. And at the moment we are a we are branded as a software company, aren't we?
Yeah, I was going to say let's probably a good place to start is to look at what we are and what we do now, and then see what we can come up with.
Yeah. How far can I go? That kind of readable? Yeah.
Yep.
So obviously, one of the things that we do is developing software, right?
Yep.
Um, and specifically software as a service.
Yep.
What do I call that? Um, delivering, giving. I don't know. SaaS, maintaining, providing. There we go. Providing software as a service. Okay. Um, I would say that designing software or designing digital solutions is something else, is something different from developing software. Would you agree? It's in the continuum, but you could be developing something without designing it, without having designed it, and you could design something without developing it.
Yeah. And I think so. One of the interesting factors here, obviously, and partly the reason we're having this discussion is because over the last year there has been a significant shift in IQM, with regards to what we do and who we are,
Yep.
prompted by us joining. And on that question of development and design, I would say that I don't think IQM in the past, before we joined, so more than a year ago, would just design software for somebody.
Yep.
Um, Whereas I think they would be involved in the design process because they have been asked to develop something.
Yep.
So they would most definitely be involved in the design. Um, but I don't think IQM was necessarily fully involved in what um, we would say was more of a holistic design approach.
Yep. I
It was
agree.
more to do with the back end and the architecture. And I think it'd be fair to say that the front end and user experience was a little bit more of an afterthought.
Yes, I agree.
And don't get me wrong, IQM software that they had developed before we got here, um, are those pieces of software are really good at solving, um, customer problems they were having,
Mm.
and saving money, but not as good as nowhere near as good as they could be, not as good as they could be in terms of the user experience, and
Yeah.
certainly not as well designed and laid out as they could be.
So interestingly, I think there is one thing that IQM has done always, which is to have a very, I guess, what we would call agile approach to software development, which is to define what is really the minimum viable product that we can deliver to you, get that to you as quickly as possible, and then build on it. So they wouldn't present it in that way, but that is effectively what they would do. They would say, how can we solve your problem as quickly as possible? Let's do that, and then build on it as we go. And if a I'm sure if a customer had said, I wanted to do this and then I want a really slick interface, a really, really good interface, then they would have done it. They would have
Yeah,
figured out how to do it. It's
yeah.
just that that was never a priority for the customer nor for IQM.
And I think that's what you're talking about there is partly a function of the primary customers, that IQM used to have, which is the train operating companies. They tended to want a technical solution solved. And if you look at some of the other software that they still have to use, um,
Oh yeah, they have a low benchmark.
they have a really, really low benchmark.
So this is why I think um, when we came in and we said, oh, this is how we want to manage our projects, and we want to put really this agile project management methodology in place, and we want to have these meetings, and we want to have these tools, etc. Um, that wasn't really shocking because that was anyway how they would work. They wouldn't have a fixed. I say they. We don't have a fixed product roadmap for the next 2 years. We see at the moment we start developing what is the highest priority for the customer, and then we
Yeah,
do that first,
yeah.
right? And obviously, yes, there is debugging and all of that stuff, but when it comes to features, they had a very customer-centric approach, and we still do, um, which I think is important to underline. So because this is the thing, right? And it probably needs to be somewhere. I don't know where. I'll just put it here at the moment. But Stuart always prides himself in saying that he is and IQM are problem solvers.
Yeah.
And so you throw any problem at us and we'll solve it. Um, rather than saying I wanna build a product or some kind of thing that I can sell and make a load of money of, is you have a problem, let me solve that for you with technology.
Yes.
So I think that's a part of who we are.
It's a problem solving and technical kind of angle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than a make loads and loads of money angle, and find the way to do that rather than to find a good technical solution.
Which if a customer comes to us and says, I want to solve this problem, we will definitely tell them if there is a better solution out there than
Yeah.
if we were to develop it ourselves.
Yeah. I'm just looking at some of the stuff that I've written for as a company overview. And I've drawn that from our mission and vision, which obviously you are going to be, obviously, because you drove that process, you're going to be, oh, now I'm forgetting the words. You're going to be at least aware of that. But I'm going to just read a few of those things out because we put this together about, I don't know, 9 months ago, maybe even 10 months ago now. So we have a number of core values that guide our business. Fun. We want to have fun at work and with the people we work with. Then money is a tool. Money isn't an objective. It's there to do cool stuff, stroke help more people. And then sustainability. We think about the long-term consequences of our actions and build for the future. And then relationships, which we've talked about already. We keep a human relationship with our customer and strive to deliver the best experience we can. Then the last one we've got is challenge. We choose to go where our work really can make a difference and where we are challenged as a company and as individuals in order to learn and grow. So that's what we had written down as our mission, um, and our kind of vision, our values, our core values. That 10 months ago, and all of those are still true. Whether we are portraying ourselves and promoting ourselves enough in relation to those is a completely different matter. Whether we are getting that message across clearly is another matter.
Well, I think in our actions, very likely. So people who interact with us, very likely. Our customers probably get a good sense of that. At least, yeah, I'm pretty confident that customers who know us get a good sense of
But I,
that.
but I think my understanding of why you're kind of posing this question in the first place is partly due to how do we present that to new people, so people that come across our website or people that see our LinkedIn page, or people that we're trying to recruit, if you like. How do we put that vision across, and therefore, for example, with regards to recruitment, attract the right sort of individuals?
Yes, absolutely. Um, so I think before, because we're going a bit more, I mean, creative process, we're going back and forth.
Yeah,
Um, Before we go too much into the who we are, I think there's still one aspect, a big aspect, which probably has multiple components of what we do now that isn't on there, which is, for lack of a better word, the consultancy side of things. I
yeah.
don't like consultancy as a concept because it can mean anything and everything. Um, so I'm trying to figure out how can we phrase it so that it's more tangible.
Yeah.
What are we helping? Because effectively we're helping people with processes or with methodologies or with our experience, our knowledge to do stuff and to upskill themselves and to put new processes in place that they're
I
struggling to
mean,
put in place.
that's problem solving again, isn't it? In a sense, that's quite a holistic approach that we're taking there.
Um,
I know that probably that doesn't that again that's
it,
quite
it's
a
it
big
makes it
thing that I
more
don't.
vague
Yeah, yeah.
than
No, I don't think it solves the problem. I'm just
yes. No, you're right. I mean, why I'm shaking my head is because there are instances where I'll come in contact with a company and I know what they need to do, they know what they need to do, and it's a question of getting it done. And so it's less about how do I solve the problem, and it's more about how do I get shit done. And yeah, yes, that's also a problem. And effectively you're also solving a problem there, but um, that's
isn't that change management?
yeah. So that was one of the things that I was thinking about. Yeah, it's I think to a certain extent it's change management. To a certain extent it's innovation or digital transformation type stuff, which I'm a bit reluctant to use because they're very buzzwordy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I
You're looking.
guess
Are you
change
looking for a
management.
phrase or
Well, the thing is, I don't think
phrases
we.
that are more simple? Plain English kind of.
more concrete, yeah. And the thing is, we don't have to put it um, into one thing, into one phrase, because there are two or three different flavors in there, I think.
Or even we don't have to put it into words.
Sure.
I'm not saying we don't put it into words.
No,
I'm
no,
saying
but maybe in
there
this
might be other ways
process,
of
yeah.
representing um, what we
Gonna do
do.
your first interpretive dance on the PVT, Mark.
I'm not sure people are ready for my
Okay,
interpretive
yeah, yeah.
dance at this point. Um, you know, some of the really nice diagrams that you've done. So you've got words that you can put down to help explain something. But having having a simple diagram, if you like, to go with that, I think is helpful. Um, maybe maybe more of a picture even that gives an impression of something. Because we want to engage people as well, and we want to put across, I think, the personality of IQM as well in the way in the way in which we express ourselves.
Yes. Um, I think, we definitely still have, and I definitely still want to do it at some point, that opportunity to continue our graph of the legless um, man or person dragging themselves across the floor, and then somebody coming along and telling them, "Hey, you should try these leg things. They're great." Um, so I still think that's a useful story, image,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Um, People will be wondering what the hell are they talking about. um, but I also would like to get to a place where if someone asks me what does IQM do, I can answer them easily without having to pull out an infographic, if that makes sense.
Would be interesting actually. A person springs to mind who is tends to be very good at this sort of thing, which is Andy Cruz. Um, so it might be interesting to talk to him. Give you a bit of people a bit of background. He tends to um, kind of read up on certain business processes or complex processes and then distill them into their essence, if you like. And he's had some jobs where he's written those into briefings for managers so that they can have at least a good overall insight into something that's more complex, by the way in which he's kind of reduced it or distilled it down to its essence.
Which
I'm not
reminds
so good
me,
at doing that.
that we said that we should start inviting guests to these every now and then, which would have been a good
He would have
shout,
been ideal guest, wouldn't he?
which would have required us to prepare this more in advance and know who would be a good person. So maybe that's
Yeah,
one for when we come back from holiday.
yeah, yeah.
um, so is there anything else? So I feel like there is still an aspect of what we do which has to do with training, if that makes sense, teaching and training. Um, to me, that is still, I mean, there's a lot of overlap there with the change management bit,
Yeah.
but people do consider it to be something else, to be something different usually. So I'm wondering if I wanna just put a separate header for that.
Yep.
should we put gamification of some sort on there as well? Or making boring stuff fun, which we have a tendency to do.
I mean, making boring stuff fun, I think, is a really good phrase in its own right. I think you might have hit the nail on the head there. Okay, you need to go into that a bit more detail with a customer, but it does sum it up.
Well, it's really interesting because literally 5 minutes before we started this, a customer told me, "Oh, I'm talking to these guys in the organization next week about a project to make a board game for something, and I wondered whether you had the latest prototype of that game that you made for us available so that I can recommend you as a potential partner for that." So there we go.
Which game were they referring to?
The Bobinator, what we
Okay,
refer to as the Bobinator.
yeah.
Um,
That's interesting, isn't it? That you start to get a name for being linked to games or stuff that's more fun. And obviously we have me and you predominantly, not just in IQM but in other parts of other jobs and in our personal interests, have focused quite a lot on kind of games and gamification, if you like, with friends and colleagues.
yes. So one of the things I'll just put it on there. One of the things that comes to mind for me, right, is this stereotypical agile arrow, where in my mind, oh, sorry, the arrow is a bit off screen there. Um, in my mind, we have a, let's call it a sequential skill set in the company where we've got one segment here, one segment there, one segment there of the arrow, if you will, and we can do each of those segments separately if needed, but I think the strength comes from being able to do all of them. So that initial interaction with a customer to understand what their problem is really that empathetic bit, the problem analysis, the business analyst part, if you want, where we're identifying the root cause, which Stuart's really good at, you're really good at, I'm good at as well. Um, then, and really understanding someone's business, right? And then going into how can we improve this situation that you're in, which we can do through changing behavior, changing processes, and changing tools. And we can do all three of those, right? And we can help you to do those things. And we strive in that process to make ourselves redundant.
Yeah,
So we don't want to make you reliant on us in that
yeah,
process. We want to build the capacity in your business to then learn how to do those things without us.
yeah.
And I think, in a nutshell, that's kind of what we do, isn't it?
Yes.
That doesn't quite represent also who we are. So you can do that and be a really boring company or be a really traditional company, which we're not. Um, and so I'm wondering, is that, for job applicants and that kind of stuff, that's relevant. For a customer or a partner, they want to know that about you, but they maybe don't need to, that doesn't need to be the first thing they read, if you will. But I'm wondering, is there a tone or a choice of words or anything that we can use to make it clear to people in that sort of half a minute explanation that I just gave that that's the kind of company we are? Or is that sort of a separate thing? Because I feel like, sorry, I'm going on a bit of a ramble,
Yeah,
but I feel like companies who say, "Oh, we're serious about fun," and that kind of stuff, it sounds a bit fake, right? And if you
yeah,
have to say it, then you're not really living it. So I'm wondering, can we show it? Can we demonstrate it? And to a certain extent, maybe you've already given us the answer, right? Maybe it's by showing, by telling it not only through words or not only through a statement.
Yeah.
You know,
I think I think
yeah.
I think that help. I think that help would help set us apart with some of the, again, coming back to some of the drawings and stuff that you've done. They're very, very business relevant. I would argue they're much more engaging, um, and it does indicate that we're not a standard kind of run-of-the-mill company, and that we're creative and have a sense of fun. So I think it has multiple benefits, for us to take that kind of approach, and also it becomes a unique selling point. Obviously, there are other companies that are doing it, but it becomes more of a unique selling point. Oh, you remember that company that does those images, or you know did that gamified workshop or something like that. It makes you, I think, makes you stand out. And we're doing it because that's the way we like to do things. um, Hopefully the welcome side effect will be that we we get more business because of that, because we have those extra bits, if you like. And people, hopefully, because change management and processes, that sounds pretty boring, if you just express it in those terms. But imagine if you could make something that is perceived to be quite boring into an enjoyable, fun experience. And that's absolutely possible, I think.
Oh, 100%. And so this is the interesting thing, and I have a closing challenge for us.
Yep.
Um, this is the interesting thing, right? Is at the moment, um, I and it's not the first time that it happens. I'm doing a number of customer, or sorry, user interviews in with one of our customers, for a solution that's kind of out there in terms of how fun it is, let's say, right? And every user interview so far that I've done, every single one has said, well, I quite enjoy this, but we're a quite traditional company, so most of our colleagues won't like it. Which means I haven't encountered one of those musty old boring colleagues yet. I've only encountered the people that actually enjoy having fun at work. Now, arguably, you through the network and the kind of people that I was introduced to, it's likely that I was actually introduced to people who are more open-minded.
Yeah.
However, even when working with companies like a bank in the risk department of a bank, right? For me, that was one of my coolest workshops to run. It was 300 risk people, risk analysts in a bank, in a traditional bank, so not one of these challenger banks or anything. And we did a 4-hour ideation workshop. And at the end of that workshop, the manager, well, I say manager, but I think he was VP or director or something. He came to me and I said, I don't know what you did to them. They're all smiling. I've never seen them like this. And the thing is, for me, people are people. Humans are humans, and I know of no human who doesn't like smiling and having fun.
Does
So
anybody not? I was just thinking that. Does anybody not want to have fun? So
yeah,
it's not a case of it's not a case
how does
of
that work even?
you should be able to, if you find the right way of approaching it and the right tools, you should be able to have a positive impact and allow people to have more fun, than they might have had otherwise. And I think that would be with the vast majority of people. I'm sure there can be exceptions. Sometimes people have really bad days, but I think you can increase that engagement and enjoyment in whatever the thing that you're trying to put across. Why not?
um,
The thing
so
is, for us and the people that, uh, quite a few of the people that we naturally mix with, let's say more to do with our interests, it's embedded in them. The role play, the
mm,
games, the computer games, etc. It's embedded in them that they take that sort of approach with things.
yep.
Um, and that's not necessarily the norm. Obviously, there are other people in different disciplines with different interests that have that same approach as well, but
Yeah, yeah.
it doesn't tend to be the standard approach out there. So I don't think that it's that people, like you say, can't have fun or don't want to have fun. It's just that some of the, or maybe quite a few of the workshops or presentations, these standard business approaches that have been done in the past, from the various work companies that I work for, some of them are really boring.
Yep.
Actually, properly go to sleep boring, especially if they are a day and you have a a nice lunch.
Oh yeah, food's a killer.
Exactly. So there needs to be a properly thought out way to engage people.
So and this is another topic that we can spend probably hours talking about is presentations. And the amount of people that I've met who say, yes, but our people, they just like looking at spreadsheets, so we need to show them spreadsheets. And you're like, no, no, no. Yeah, spreadsheets are a really effective way to convey data. Don't get me wrong, but not in a presentation. It just doesn't work. It just distracts people. It puts people to sleep. Anyway, so it's a different topic.